Omagyantimandasya Gyanandalashalakaya Chakshunmilitam Dana Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Sthapadam Yenubuddhane Swayam Upakaramayam Danati Swabadantikam Namam Vishnu Pada Krishna Pista Buddhane Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govani Pajaine Nivashisha Shunivari Pasata Dashatarine Manchakapa Trivisa Kripa Sinivevacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you very much for coming together on this Monday evening. Mondays are usually a bit sleepy days, but nevertheless, a few very sincere souls have gathered. And I guess the topic for tonight is the false ego, right? Our constant companion and troublemaker. So actually the other day when I was giving Bhagavatam class, when was it? Saturday. Yeah, the verse and purport matched so nicely, so I couldn't help myself, you know. So I don't know how many of you have listened to this class on Saturday. Quite a few, because it is actually the introductory session, pretty much what I gave there. So I don't want to bore you by repeating the same thing. So that's why I'm thinking maybe we can go to the next lesson, right? Because, I mean, who did not hear the Saturday morning class? Why, hang on. You just said you heard it. And now you're also saying you didn't hear it. Oh. The body was there. But sometimes you're laughing a lot too, you know. So, and if you laugh at the right time and place, you know, that means your mind is also there, you know, not only the body, right? Yeah, well, let's meet halfway then. Let me just give a little summary, and then we go to lesson number 2, because actually the whole seminar has four lessons, you know, and usually I don't get much further than first one or maximum second one. So yeah, since many of you heard that Bhagavatam class, let me just summarize and yeah, refresh our memory, or for those who didn't hear it. And then we do want to introduce something which we did not discuss on Saturday. Yeah, so false ego. I mean, let me share a few things which I can't remember I shared. Let me share what inspired me to actually give this topic of the false ego special attention. Because for so many years, I was conducting holy name retreats all over the planet, because this is another one of my convictions that I feel we have to make more effort to get on deeper levels of chanting in japa as well as in kirtan. And that's why I find these holy name retreats very effective, where we go in seclusion for 1 or 2 or 3 days, and we simply focus completely on the holy name. And you can actually almost enter a different reality. It's quite powerful, especially if you decide to switch off your mobile phone for 3 days. Yeah, this is really powerful. Yeah, because if we leave everything aside, everything can wait until we are back, you know, then you actually do enter a different reality. But after doing these holy name retreats for so many years, then one day I started realizing that if we don't parallel to our endeavors of getting on deeper levels of chanting, if we don't parallel also endeavor to dissolve the false ego, then actually our endeavors of chanting is compared to an elephant taking bath. You know, after elephant gets out of the water, what does he do? Takes all the dust and dirt with the trunk, throws it back on his back. And that's actually what really happens, because we are so trapped in these false ego patterns of behaviors. They're so deep rooted, you know, and to break out of them is not so easy. So that's what happens, you know, we sit there for 3 days on the Holy Name Retreat, and then we immediately, you know, we feed the ego, we boost it, we defend it, we protect it, we do all these things which we should not do. So like that, we cannot get anywhere, actually. And that's exactly why Mahaprabhu says, Trinada Pisunichena, you know, that only if we are more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, can we really chant the holy name, can we really receive the benefit which the holy name carries. And being more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, we can only be that if our false ego is dissolved and subdued, right? The false ego is what protests and doesn't allow us to be humble and tolerant, you know? Yeah, so that's just one day really dawned upon me. And then also other little things. Yeah, because the false ego is so subtle that we can easily miss it. In the name of Krishna consciousness, we can do the opposite of what we should be doing. We can boost and feed the false ego instead of subduing and dissolving it. Krishna consciousness offers a lot of opportunities for this. Yeah, yes. To try to show off and be in the center and I mean, not referring to you ladies, but kirtan is the opportunity. Oh yes, you know, to make a whole show and to glorify yourself instead of the Lord, you know, it's all going on. And the Bhagavatam, even Upabana had that problem, right? He was Narada Muni in his previous life, he was Upabana. So, and he joined some kirtan mela in the upper planets. So kirtan melas have always existed. And then he was showing off in front of the heavenly damsels and, you know, singing tunes in such a way to bring attention to himself rather than to the Lord. So, and as a result, he was cursed. You know, no opulence for you. One life as a son of a maidservant, no opulence, you know. So yeah, even he had that problem. So what to speak of us, you know. So in any case, and also, yeah, I remember I once was giving a little seminar in Vrindavan on the false ego. And afterwards, one Mataji came up to me. She's been around about 15, 20 years, you know, serious devotee, Brahmin initiated, everything. So she came up to me and said, oh, thank you for giving the seminar. Now I realize I actually have a false ego, you know. And she said, oh, before I was always thinking this is just some philosophical, technical thing that has no relevance to me. But now I realize, you know, so even after 15, 20 years of serious practice, you may just not even realize because it's so subtle, you know. And then also one other amazing thing I encountered once, there was one Mataji who has a very dominant false ego, and as a result she always gets herself into trouble and conflicts and all that. So and at some stage she was a little frustrated, and she kind of turned to me and revealed her heart a bit. So I thought, all right, let me try and help her to understand what is the problem actually. And I was very careful, knowing well that the false ego doesn't like to be addressed. So I was just saying to her, well, I guess the false ego is always getting us into trouble. And then her reaction, she was laughing it off, saying, come on, false ego, what's that? I don't have that. And I was so shocked. I thought, my God, how is it possible? You know, if you have such a prominent false ego, and then you're just laughing it off, thinking, come on, what's that? I don't have that. I was perplexed. I didn't know what to say. And all I said was, I wish I could say that about myself. That's all I said. I knew there's no use to say anything more than that. But this is really what it's like. Amazingly, the bigger and more prominent the false ego is, the less we realize, the less we can see it. And you would think it's the other way around, that the more prominent the false ego is, the more we see it. But no, the less we see it. And it actually requires some little purification to be perceptive enough, And it's almost like that the more we become purified, the more we realize how subtle it is and how it gets always into our way, Yeah, so all these things, made me realize this topic deserves some special attention, When I give the course in Mayapur, it's always the most popular course, Everybody wants to hear about the false ego. Yeah, so it's good. So in any case, on Saturday, we were explaining that in a nutshell, the false ego makes us think to be something, that we are something which we are not, And of course, in a more gross way, it manifests as pride and arrogance and overconfidence. But then the more subtle thing is actually just that mere identification, with different roles we are playing, or the body we are having, German woman, Indian man, American woman, whatever, So these are all false designations, upadhis. So, and the false ego makes us think that we are that, right? And we were explaining how we all have so many roles in life, right? We may be a mother or father. So at home, we have certain roles, but then at work in the office, we have a different role. Then at the temple, we have again a different role. Then when we go to our parents' house, again, we have a different role. So we play all these different roles, like we wear different hats at certain times, but we are not the hat. Although some people may even identify with their favorite hat and think this is a part of me, this is me, only I have this hat. Yes, so, and the reason why we identify with these roles, anybody remembers? Why do we identify with these roles? Huh? We think we are the body. We think we are the body, yes. Sense of importance, exactly. That's what we were saying. Yeah, the sense of importance, it gives us some recognition, and this is exactly what the false ego is running after this gratification of this sense of being somebody. Yes, being somebody, some importance, Yes. Yeah, so that's the problem, you know. And then we were also quoting Prabhupada's nice statement where he says, life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. This is one of my favorites. Nonsensical stage performance. It's really what it is. You know, every lifetime we're like on the stage, running around, playing our game there. But we really take it in. We really think, oh, I'm so important. I'm so busy. I have so many things to do and no time for Krishna. I'm so busy, busy, busy. And then at death, show is over, you know. It's all over, all gone, you know. Yes. Yeah, so, and the false ego is what entangles us in this nonsensical stage performance. Yes. And naturally, if we think to be something which we are not, we cannot be peaceful. It's a lot of anxiety, you know? We can just imagine we are a servant at a king's court, and then one day we proclaim, so I'm the king now. Would be a lot of anxiety, how to convince everybody around us that we are the king, right? And what if they don't believe it? And what if, if they realize I'm not the king? So it cannot be a peaceful situation. Lots of anxieties, sleepless nights. So, and then after a few days we say, oh, I was just joking. I'm just a servant. What a relief, you know. I don't have to pretend to be something which I'm not, right? And that is actually the root cause of our fears and anxieties. That's why we can't be peaceful in this world, you know, because we are always trying to pretend to be something which we are not. We are trying to be the enjoyer, the supreme controller, the proprietor of everything. So, you know, with that wrong perception of life, how can we be peaceful if we always try to be something which we actually not, you know? So therefore, it is indeed like that. The more we dissolve and subdue the false ego, the more we actually become peaceful, you know, because, we are just humble servant and And I was giving this example, you know, how being servant is always the perfect solution. And very funny, I was giving this example, which indeed I was put in today. I was smiling to myself, you know. I'll tell you the story. I was giving the example, you're a traveling preacher and you visit a temple, and then some more senior preacher comes, and the temple president says, oh, maybe he should give the lecture. So if you're a humble servant, no problem, right? But if you are trying to enjoy that, you know, situation, then you get all upset. What is this? I was scheduled. So guess what? It was so funny. Today I got a message from LA, and I was scheduled next Sunday for the Sunday program. And then they informed me, yes, Navo Yogendra Swami is there, and he requested to give the Sunday feast program. And I was just smiling to myself, fine, no problem. And I thought, yes, Krishna's giving me an opportunity not to only give these examples to them, but also to live them, you know. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind really, you know. I'm happy to just have my book table there, no problem, let him talk, you know. But yeah, these things do happen, you know. And if you're a humble servant, that's always the solution. Then you don't mind, okay, I can serve by speaking, I can serve by hearing. It's all the same. All I want to do is serve. That's the solution, you know. But if we are not a humble servant and we want to enjoy the gratification of giving the Sunday Feast program in LA, you know, then yeah, we will get all disturbed and agitated, you know. Yes, Krishna always arranges these little things, you know, just to give us a chance to dissolve the false ego. Yes. So and then also we were briefly discussing this verse 1858, where Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So Krishna gives us these two choices to act, either in consciousness of him, understanding our position of servant and following his advice, his instructions, so then we can master all the different challenges and obstacles, you know. But if we act through false ego, not hearing Krishna, because false ego blocks the ears, blocks the intelligence, so then sooner or later we will be lost, you know. Yes. Yes, and from this verse we went to explain that there are two different motivating forces. The ambitious, false ego motivating force. I want to become this, that, and the other to gain a lot of importance and recognition and so on. You know, that's the material path to success. But then another path, to the Vaishnava path to success, is different. There we simply say, all I want to do is serve, because that is our eternal constitutional position, to be servant. And it really works that if we give ourselves in service, serving with heart and soul, no matter what it may be, then Krishna recognizes that in our heart, that we have a longing to serve, and he opens all the different opportunities and all the different doors at the right time will open to us. Yes. So it's a very different mood, you know, right? Because even in Krishna consciousness, we can easily also be very ambitious. I want to become a sannyasi, a guru, diksha guru, world famous kirtaniya, and preacher with 500,000 followers on Facebook and YouTube and whatever, you know. So that's the ambitious path. And yeah, it is there, you know, you can smell it if you're a little perceptive. Once you get some insights, you become more perceptive towards all these subtleties, you know, and these things are going on. Yeah, these things are going on. Yeah, but that will not attract Krishna's merciful glance upon us, you know, because in spiritual life, to do anything, we need the blessings. We need the empowerment of the Lord. Yes, it's not a question of false ego, empowerment through false ego, you know, but no, we want to be empowered through the blessings and merciful glances of the Lord and his pure devotees, you know, and that we get by giving ourselves in service, not through this ambitious false ego motivation, you know. Yeah, so we have to clearly understand this, you know. And yeah, we can definitely say, you know, or the Prabhupada disciples at least those who are still in the fire of service, that's how they got, how they could do what they're doing now, because they were willing to sacrifice their life for Prabhupada. Yes, they were serving with heart and soul. And that gave him this empowerment of Prabhupada and Krishna and Mahaprabhu, And that's why they, could do so many things for Prabhupada. I mean, in the early days, there was no Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, so many of these Maharajas who have done so much, they haven't done much studies and all this, because at that time, I mean, even when I joined, there was no Bhakti Shastri course. This all came much later, Yeah, so it definitely is that spirit of sacrificing one's life. There is one purport where Prabhupada says a disciple should be willing to sacrifice one's very life for Guru's pleasure. Yes, yes. So, and that service mood, that attracts, the blessings and empowerment, Yes. So very important to clearly understand the difference. And it is also interesting, we may sometimes have this experience that we find ourselves in a situation where we feel actually somehow I could do so much more for Prabhupada's mission, You kind of feel, I could do more, but somehow the opportunities are not opening up. Anybody has ever been in that situation? Maybe. So, if you find yourself in that situation, it means Krishna thinks that we are not ready to handle the successes. In other words, if Krishna would let us do things and we would be successful, then we would become too proud and carried away. We are not, purified enough at heart to handle the successes. And that's why Krishna puts the handbrakes on. Yeah, I mean, thinking back, 20 years ago or something, I definitely found myself in this situation. I always had the feeling, God, I somehow could do more, but somehow the opportunities were not coming up. And I could really feel somebody was putting the brakes on. And now looking back, I definitely know why, because I just needed a bit more purification, and I still need a bit more purification, but that's really what it is like. And at that time, of course, I didn't see it, and I there was some little frustration there, why can't I do more somehow, So it's a good and practical thing to keep in the back of our minds, that if we find ourselves in such a situation, yes, well, it means Krishna sees that we are not ready to handle the successes, and that's why he's not giving the opportunity. That's why he's waiting patiently until we are a bit more purified, a bit more humble. So, and then, he opens up the right doors at the right time for us to move on. And yeah, so it definitely works that way, So before I give, I do want to introduce one important rule of Vaishnava etiquette today that helps us to dissolve the false ego. But before we go there, do we have any question? Yes.
Is your false ego helpful at any point in your life? Is it a means to protect yourself maybe sometimes in certain situations? Does it actually help you at times?
If it is helpful.
Could it be?
Yes. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, we were discussing on Saturday that the false ego is not all bad, because initially we have to say that our motivation of serving Krishna is just not as developed yet as the false ego motivation. You know, the ambitiousness in our conditioned state is definitely more developed. You know, and yeah, so initially the false ego, at least it gets us going. It motivates us. And I once heard this comment in a lecture from an initiating guru. He was saying, yes, false ego has to be transformed, has to be given up, but not too quickly. Because if we give it up too quickly, before we have cultivated the same intense motivation to serve Krishna, then we will just drown in tamaguna and laziness and not do anything. Right? So yes, false ego, it has a lot of good things. Maybe I should be so bold to share one thing. I hope I'm not getting myself into trouble here. But no, man's body, woman's body, gross and subtle, they are very different, because they're actually, according to Krishna's recommendation, they're meant to play different roles. So man's subtle body comes along with a stronger false ego, and that motivates him to take charge, because man's duty is to protect, to provide, and according to Krishna's system, to take charge. And the gross and subtle body are made like that so he can play that role. That's why the men have stronger muscles, broader shoulders, and so they can protect, and so on, you know. So, and the subtle body is also designed. That's why the intelligence is very rational, you know. Like men are not good in multitasking. We women are good in multitasking, because that's what we need as being, when we are mother. We have to multitask completely, you know. But for men to protect, well, when they fight the tiger, they should concentrate on that. They should not multitask, you know. Yes. So, I mean, I find it very fascinating to actually discover how these, you know, natures, how Krishna builds in exactly the right qualities in natures, so men and women are equipped with the right tools to play their duties, you know, and their roles. So men are meant to take charge. That's why not only the intelligence and the gross body is stronger, but the false ego also. And that motivates him to take charge. Otherwise, probably he couldn't be bothered, you know. But somebody has to do it. Yes. So to go back to your question, yeah, false ego has a lot of good things. But yeah, let's finish this with a man. In Krishna consciousness, our men have to learn to take charge, not with a false ego drive, but humble servant, in the mood of humble servant. And that's a challenge. It's difficult. Oh, yes. You know, as soon as you take charge, false ego also wants to be a part of it, you know. But to take charge in the mood of humble servant, this is not easy. It's a challenge. Maybe close the door a bit. I'm afraid I get some head cold here because it's drafty a bit on my head there. Yeah, so it does have some initial good, you know, effect too. And we were saying also, for grihasta, a family man, they need a sense of ownership. This is my house, my car, you know, and that makes them responsible. You know, I was giving the example that temple cars are usually not nicely maintained. They're bombs. Everybody drives them, knocks them around. Is that what also is here in San Diego?
Well, the cars are pretty good, but the thing is, there's devotees who are kind of like taking charge of the car, like, to maintain. So they have a sense of ownership.
So that is the secret, to give people a sense of ownership, that things are maintained. You know, it's just like that. But if it's just Krishna's, it's just the way it is, you know, because we are not there yet, that we put more emphasis on maintaining Krishna's property, you know, rather than our own. But as soon as it's mine, you know, then, yeah, then I'll take nicely care of it. And definitely Grihastha life is all about I, me, and mine, you know, and that false ego motivation motivates a person to be dutiful and responsible and all that, you know. Yes. And then the purifying duty to I, me, and mine is to give in charity. That loosens the knot of attachment to I and me and mine, you know. Like in Krishna book, Nanda Maharaj, he had thousands of cows. So they were his cows. They were not Lord Vishnu's cows or something. They were his cows. And he was giving in charity at all different opportunities, you know. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there is some good thing in it too, you know. Or being a mother, my child, you know, my husband. And I'm willing to do anything for my husband, my child, you know, yes, making sacrifice. But for other people's children, we wouldn't do that. But it's my child, you know, yes. And you know, as a mother, yeah, but still as a wife too, you know, being mother and wife is the best way for a woman to learn to become selfless servant. 24/7, you have to run, you know, no off day, no 9 to 5 or what, you know. Yeah, it's all around the clock. So yeah, so Krishna uses the false ego to trick us, you know, and motivate us to serve. And then within Krishna consciousness, it needs to be purified, that we get off this false ego motivation, you know. So the false ego has to be transformed into the real ego, which is Jiva Svabhava Krishna Nityadas, I'm eternal servant, you know. And we also have the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, I'm not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, I'm not a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanapasta, Sannyas. All I am is servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. You know, so that's the real ego. I'm not all these designations. You know, even though of course Varnashram is there to get us there, but eventually we have to drop it. You know, yes. Okay, so let us move on, otherwise it gets too late. So yes, because the false ego is so near and dear to us, that's why we like to protect it and defend it at any opportunity, right? So we may have, I'm sure we have heard, the 4 animal propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So we talk quite a lot about eating, sleeping, and mating, but we don't talk so much about defending, that we have to keep that also to a bare minimum. And here in this context, we're talking about the verbal defense, you know. And this is actually one of the main and foremost rules of Vaishnava etiquette. Like Vaishnava etiquette and culture is designed to bring us to Trinada Pisanichana. Yes. If we were spontaneously there already, then we would not need any Vaishnava etiquette. Right? So the whole Vaishnava etiquette is designed to help us to become more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than the tree. So Vaishnava etiquette says a devotee should not defend himself or herself. We should defend others, especially also Krishna and his devotees, if they are unfairly treated. But we should not defend ourselves. Because if we defend ourselves, what do we defend? The false ego, nothing else. Right? And if everybody would follow the Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need for us to defend, right? Because then surely somebody else would, stand up and stick up for us and say, hey, actually, it wasn't like that, and so on. But unfortunately, most of us, we do the opposite. We defend ourselves very nicely every day almost. But when we see somebody else wrongly treated, oh, we keep quiet. We don't want to stick our head out there or our neck. And it may damage my relationships if I say something. So I'm going to be quiet. It's none of my business, So, but actually we should do the opposite. We should not defend ourselves, but we should defend others, if they are somehow wrongly treated, Yeah, so this is quite important rule of Vaishnava etiquette. And of course, the main way is how we defend is that we answer back, but, it wasn't like that, and it wasn't me. And we blame others. That's a very common mechanism of defending the false ego, that we're blaming others or the circumstances. And we find excuses, right? Yeah, very common thing. These things are so subtle and they almost take place every day in our lives, Yes. And the more we are, in a service situation with others, like for example, family life gives so much opportunity to dissolve the false ego. My God, that's why family life is so purifying, because you will only be able to keep a family together if you're willing to work on yourself and let go of the false ego's demands. Otherwise, if we are not willing to do that, there will be always quarrel, constantly, right? Yes, yes, And we see today people rather separate and get divorced than doing some internal work on themselves and learn to become humble and tolerant. Yes, very clear, Yeah, so this not defending is a really important thing, And yeah, that's what we do. We blame others and we make excuses and we answer back and defend and but, and it wasn't like this and, I mean, usually when I give this course in Mayapur, I spend about 2 hours talking about this point, And I remember once, after we had just talked for 2 hours about not defending, then afterwards I spoke to some young bhakta, I can't even remember what it was all about, and he defended immediately. The false ego is pushing us so strongly. Oh, we can't even control the tongue. It just blurts all out, And we have to say it right now, So he was carrying on defending. And I said to him, Prabhu, remember, we just talked about it. Don't defend. Don't defend. Remember, we just discussed it. He couldn't even hear it. Oh, he kept just going, you know. So strong is this urge to speak and this urge to defend. And that's what the false ego is pushing us, you know. Yes, yes. Yes, so it's the false ego behind it, you know. This is also interesting that the false ego actually uses the mind and intelligence as tools to get that gratification, you know. So even in japa, when we feel, oh, our mind is uncontrolled, once we know a little bit more about the false ego, we realize that behind the mind is actually the false ego. And the false ego uses the mind as a tool, you know? But the root cause is actually the false ego. Like, for example, if we have some monologue, dialogue going on in our heads there in circles, you know? Or let's say you make the mistake to check your phone before japa time, and then you have some disturbing message there, right? And then half the japa time you sit there, oh, it goes in circles, what to answer, and oh, why did she say this, and oh, how am I going to answer to that, and oh, you know, for 2 hours, and go in circles, you know. So this is the false ego behind it, using the mind, you know, to get its gratification, and it provokes us and irritates us and all this, you know. And I mean, intelligence also, it's interesting because in the same way how the gross body is made from earth, water, fire, air, ether, but you show me, where's the earth? Where's the fire in your body? Where's the water? You know, where is the ether? You show me. You can't. It's all mixed, right? So subtle body is similar. Mind, intelligence, false ego, you can hardly even separate them because they all influence each other backwards and forwards. You know? Yes. So, and the false ego contaminates the intelligence, and the contaminated intelligence sometimes twists things around just to give that false ego the gratification of, I'm right, everybody else is wrong. You may have had also situations where somebody else experiences a situation so differently, right? That you wonder, are we talking about the same situation, right? Because this is also interesting that there is no objective experience. Everybody experiences the same situation completely differently. Even there is no objective hearing. Everybody here in the room hears something differently. You know, we hear and we experience through this filter of material attachments, material desires, all kinds of traumas and luggage we are carrying around, you know, from childhood or previous life or whatnot, you know, and then of course false ego. All these things, they act like filters. So we hear and experience very differently, you know. So, and sometimes when two people, let's say two people have some argument, and then you want to be the mediator there, right, to settle the argument, and then you hear completely different versions of the same thing, and you wonder, are they talking about the same incidents or what, you know? But, or you think maybe one person is lying, but no, usually they're not lying. But the contaminated intelligence twists things around just to suit your false ego's demands. Yeah? Yes, that's what goes on. You know? It's all pretty interesting stuff for me, at least. Yeah, it's also subtle, but good to know these things, how the false ego contaminates, the intelligence and the mind. I mean, especially when you deal with devotees, we have to know these things. Otherwise, we wonder, oh, why is this person lying? And this person saying this person saying that, another person says, again, a third version of the same story. So, well, that's what it's like. Everybody experiences the same situation differently. And the false ego, yeah, has fun. Yeah, so anyway, when I wrote that book, I asked Harisori Prabhu. I'm sure you all are familiar with Harisori Prabhu. He was traveling with Prabhupada as a secretary. So I know him for many years personally. So I often consult with him about different stories Prabhupada said. There's so many stories what Prabhupada said, but I always verify them with somebody before I quote them. So I asked Harisori Prabhu, can you tell me, do you have a story with Prabhupada where you defended yourself? And he surely did. Really funny story. And the story was like this. Prabhupada asked Harisori, give me the red folder from the Almirah, from the cupboard. So Harisori Prabhu goes to the cupboard, says, Prabhupada, there is no red folder. Prabhupada repeats, give me the red folder. Harisori, oh, no red folder, can't see one. And Prabhupada repeats, third time, give me the red folder. Then Harisori Prabhu says, Prabhupada, there's a pink folder. And Prabhupada is quiet, So then Harisori takes the folder that he thinks is pink, and he gives it to Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, it's pink, not red. And Prabhupada blasted him like anything, he gave him a whole 10-minute lecture. Now you have become very expert in defending yourself towards your spiritual master, and yes, but Harisori Prabhu shares how actually it felt so good to really be, smashed and humbled by Prabhupada and be in your proper position again, and he was sharing how, yeah, he was going through some things and he was just getting a little too puffed up and carried away there. Yeah, but I mean, to say something like this to you, Guru, this is really completely inappropriate, because what did he say? He was trying to correct Prabhupada, saying, Prabhupada, it's not red, it's pink. I'm right, you're wrong. Yes. So, I mean, towards Guru, this is so bad, so bad. Yes. And I mean, it goes that far that let us imagine our Guru chastises us for something which we didn't even do. So, even in such a situation, the proper Vaishnav mood would be not to defend. Yes, yes. To simply say, okay, thank you very much, Krishna and Guru Maharaj, for giving me the opportunity to let go of my false ego. I've been a rascal for so many, in so many situations, and I did not get chastised. So now let me get the mercy of chastisement, even for something which I didn't do. And that is really challenging to the false ego. You imagine you get chastised by your guru for something which you didn't even do. Of course, the false ego is provoked. Oh, I have to let him know it was actually not like that, and I didn't do that. And what will he think about me? Whenever we think, what will everybody think about me? It's definitely the false ego, when we are so concerned about our image and reputation and all this. Yeah, so this is really a provocation to the false ego when we get chastised by our guru for something which we didn't even do. But yes, the best reaction would be to be tolerant and accept the chastisement as an opportunity to let go of the false ego. Yes, yes. And if everybody would follow the etiquette, then surely somebody would say, oh, by the way, Marge, it actually was not quite like that. And actually somebody else did this and she didn't do it or whatever, you know. Yes, then somebody would say something. Yeah, so good thing to remember that we should not defend. Yes. And I mean, let me quickly share this as a last story. Very often the question comes, but in the material world, if we don't defend, people walk all over us, right? We have to defend.
What if there's abuse?
Yeah, abuse is a different thing, you know?
True.
Yes. But even there, even in abuse, we should open our mind to our mentor, and then our mentor should defend. Yes. But unfortunately, very often this doesn't happen. And I don't want to get into that topic, definitely not. But I just want to leave it at that, you know, that we don't defend like this, but we have to reveal our mind to somebody qualified. And then they have to do something. Because also very, very common and abusive things, people don't believe us, you know. That's the whole tricky thing with these abusive situations, that others don't take it seriously, you know. So we need a mentor where we revere these things, and then it's that person's responsibility, no matter how it damages their relationships and all this kind of thing, you know. Yes, yes. So even in that situation, if we follow the proper etiquette, then things are dealt with, you know. Yes, yes. Anyway, so, but I don't want to get into this now. But yeah, this one story I want to share with you, just to make the point that even in material matters, we better think twice whether it's worth defending or not. So many years ago, this is about 15 years ago, the German taxation department charged me some taxes, which I was actually not meant to pay. They cheated me. It sounds normal, yes. So, but what happened, I got this notice, this letter, and I missed my 3 months period where I could object to it because I was traveling and somebody else, you know, received the letter, but they didn't open it and they didn't tell me that there's a letter and I didn't know. And then by the time I got it, I missed these 3 months period. So, and of course, my false ego immediately was, you know, on the ceiling there. I was all outraged and agitated. How can they do this, charge me this ridiculous amount of money? You know, it was 1,500 euros. So, and I immediately rang up the taxation department, and I immediately started arguing with the lady there, you know. And she just said, well, you missed the 3 months chance and 3 months notice period there. And if you want, you can take the matter to court. And I was, of course, completely disturbed. I couldn't think of anything else, you know, and I couldn't even chant properly anymore. The whole story just went around in circles. So whenever we find ourselves in this situation where a story goes around in circles, sure sign that the false ego takes us for a ride. Yes. So, and then by Krishna's mercy, I remembered one verse from the Bhagavatam, which saved me. So sometimes it is good to know a few verses, or at least know that they exist. Let me find it. ST. Yes. So this is 4th canto, 19th chapter, verse 34. 4:19:34. So listen to this. The verse goes, we should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. That's the verse. So now Prabhupada explains. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals. For the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. So I remembered this because I had written it into my verse book. And I thought, okay, let's just stop the whole thing. Let me just pay the €1,500. Who cares at the moment of death? Is this important whether I paid it or not? No, not important. So I haven't paid much tax in this lifetime. Maybe I still owe them something. So not worth it trying to rectify the reversal. Let me accept it as Krishna's arrangement. Pay it, move on, let it go. And that's what I did. But it took me a couple of days until the false ego could really let it go, because for 2 or 3 days there was still, this is not fair. And this is Krishna's Lakshmi, and why do I have to pay this? And so false ego is crying out for justice, yes. Yeah, so, but then after a few days, I could also let go of that, So in other words, even in material matters, we better think twice whether it's worth it to defend or not, And of course, from a material point of view, we may be looking like the loser if we don't defend, right? But from a spiritual point of view, we are the winner because we take it as an opportunity to let go of our false ego. And that will help us at the moment of death. Then we will not have to take birth again. Yes. Yes. So usually always good to ask a mentor, a counselor, because we, being in a situation, we may not be able to clearly see what is best because the false ego is, clouding our vision there and agitating our mind and all this, and our intelligence is polluted and all that. So that's why we need an aloof Brahminical advisor and well-wishing friend, And then that person can say, better you just let it go. It doesn't matter. Remember, at the moment of death, doesn't matter whether you paid the tax or not. Who cares? Yeah, no, seriously, It's good to keep that in the back of your mind to, see, does it matter at the moment of death? No, it doesn't. Okay. Do we have any last questions, since it is a practical topic?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Somebody here from the computer. How do I see who is on there?
Hare
Can
Krishna.
I see? Hang on 1 minute. I want to see your smiling face. Is this possible? Is it over Zoom or on?
Yeah.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Can I ask question? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to increase the volume. Oh, you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you. So Mataji, very nice practical.
But I want to see her, not me.
Oh. Are you
I know what I look like.
on camera, Mataji?
Yes, I am. I turned my video on.
Huh? Participate? Okay. Oh.
So,
Yes. I don't see her.
hang on.
Okay, I see you and I see both. Like my video is on.
She's done, worry. This one.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Anyway, even I can't see you, but
Okay.
Maybe tile view?
hang on. You know better how to do this?
I don't know if another person's going to be useful, but
No, usually there's this
Yeah, you
thing
can
in
just
the
show.
right upper corner, where you can.
There
say-
you go.
Oh yes, now I see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for wonderful class and the practical points that we can use in our life, and especially for Grihastha. You mentioned about like not defend. One point you said that you don't have to defend yourself, but somebody else, like you can defend. You don't have to be quiet. So, but sometime when we defend, then that person or family or temple over, they say it's not your place. You shouldn't say it. It's their matter. It's sometimes you have to be diplomatic, and it's so
Yes.
conflicting. People say not your business or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there is also Vaishnav etiquette, how we defend, So it depends a little bit on who we are, what is our position, what are our relationships. So if we are a brand new bhakta, then it is not our we don't have the authority to defend. But in any case, the right etiquette is that we report it to somebody who is in the right position. Whenever we see something which we feel is not right, it is alarming, then if it is not our position to address the matter, then we should go to that person's authority and we report. And then we have done our responsibility. And then it is up to that person to deal with it. Because maybe we imagine everything. Maybe there is actually nothing wrong. Can also be. So that's why we report it to their authority, and then they should deal with it.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense, Mataji. And one more quick question is, you said false ego is also good in a way that we can make decision in life and we can go forward and motivated. So sometimes
I didn't say decision in life, but it is a motivating force. It gets us going. It gets us acting. Yes.
Acting, yeah. Sorry, not decision, but motivating. So sometimes when we, like, I know I have a lot of false ego, and I'm realizing now too, when you said I wrote the points and everything, and sometimes it's hard to whether it's motivational false ego or is this really false ego, or how to differentiate.
Well, see, false ego is false ego, and it comes out in so many different different ways, you know. But the real ego is I'm servant. And it is very practical matter whenever we find ourselves in some unpleasant situation. If we make these 2 steps back and we ask ourselves, who am I here? What am I trying to do here? Am I trying to be humble servant, or am I trying to be the enjoyer and controller and the master here? You know? And then we actually see that being servant always offers the solution to any problem. It really works that way, you know? Yes. But the difficulty
Yes.
is that in those
Thank you so much.
challenging moments, we usually can't make these 2 steps back, you know? And again, that's why we need a mentor. And a mentor will help us to say, hey,
Yeah.
what are you trying to do? You trying to be a servant, or are you trying to be the master and controller here, you know? Yes, so, yeah, because false ego is blocking our
So,
ears and intelligence, and we can't hear, we can't understand, and you know, really,
yes, at
especially
that
in
time,
regards
especially
to,
when we are in,
huh?
especially when we are in angry or like in the argumentative, or if somebody offend us or something.
Yes.
And then other thing, we don't have a mentor. It's hard to find, and people, I mean, it's really hard. If it would be nice if we have a mentor here or something like that. We can.
Well, the first step is to clearly understand the importance of having one, you know? I mean, I wrote all these books. I don't know if you know about it. Tonight is
Yeah.
the last chance that if anybody wants to get any books, today is the last chance to get them. So maybe let me take the opportunity to say a few words about the books. So here, the first one, I will hold it for you in the camera so you can see it.
Okay. Mataji, I
Spiritual,
got 2 books on Saturday.
oh, you did.
I did.
Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. That deals with the whole gender topic, that man, woman are very different. They're very different qualities, natures, because they're meant to play certain roles, and how they perfectly complement each other, how we women have such a powerful Shakti. Yeah, we women are in many ways superior to the men, actually. Our energy, whew, you know, very strong. But yeah, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam, we women should use that Shakti to be the power of inspiration to the men and not competing with them. That's the problem. That usually today we compete with the men instead of making them the heroes. We want to be the heroes, you know. Yes. So that's what this book is all about. It's very helpful for married life also. And actually many temples in Europe and also in India, they even use this book for brahmachari training, because I'm referring to all these hot issues in regards to women, you know, and how to actually explain it in a palatable way, you know, why women are less intelligent and all that, you know. Yes. So yeah, like Chaupadi, Puni, they all use this book for the brahmachari training, because the men also, brahmacharis, they have to know how to give the answers to these things, you know. Yeah, they have to preach, they have to be able to present things properly, you know. Otherwise, if we are all confused about it, then how can we explain what Prabhupada says, you know, because Bhagavatam is full of heavy statements. And if we don't know how to understand them and how to explain them properly, you know, then we get sooner or later to the point where we think, oh, maybe we have to cut out these heavy statements, you know. But no, we shouldn't cut them out. We have to learn how to explain them, and you know, and why Prabhupada says these things, you know. And I mean, it took me also many years to get the insights, you know. I learned all these things in my preaching in Bangladesh. That's where I got all these insights, you know.
Okay.
So
What is
then
the
we
name
have
of the book, Mataji? Can you repeat the name of the book, please?
Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. Oh, here.
Okay.
You
Thank
see it?
you.
Yes?
I don't, but I'm writing the name down.
Okay. Here I'm showing it to you. If you look here in the camera, you can see it. Right? Spiritual Culture. If you can see me, then you can see the book. Yes.
Can't see
So,
you. I can't see myself. Only myself.
let me quickly now talk to my audience. I don't want
Thank
to
you
make
so
this.
much.
Yeah, I don't want to make this just a conversation between you
No,
and me.
thank you so much,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So sheltering relationships. That's hey, oi, Haribo. Can you just please be? Yeah, but let me just quickly finish. Otherwise, if everybody starts talking now, then yeah. So sheltering relationships. That's the whole book about the importance of mentorship. And when you read this book, you will be convinced without having a mentor and eventually becoming one to others, we actually cannot make advancement, no matter where we stand in spiritual life. Even Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, his problem was he didn't have a mentor. He was all alone there with a deer and he got carried away. And he didn't have anybody to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, it's enough now with the deer. Get back to your sadhana, Yes, classic story, So even on that level, we need somebody. So then the next one, the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. So we had a little introduction here, and the book is so much more in it. Also, when we get offended, that's always the classic situation of the false ego, crying out for justice and fairness, right? And there's also a whole chapter on chanting the holy name in it. Because the holy name, very instrumental in dissolving the false ego, but we have to chant with the right quality of feeling. And like it's almost like a summary of a holy name retreat, So, and then we have entering the Grihastha ashram, how to do it, how better not to do it. It's all about entering, It's almost like a handbook for matchmaking. There's a whole list of over 100 topics, what to discuss, with this candidate to see whether we are on the same wavelength and we really need some help with this. Also in Indian families, I come across this again and again, that the tradition is there, that the parents arrange the marriage, but the parents have lost that knowledge how to do it. And all they look at is caste and economical situation. And that's it. All the devotional things they don't even look at, And then the children, they don't even look at the person. They just blindly follow what the parents say. They only meet the person for half an hour and then they get married. And I come across this so many times. Unhappy couples, who suffer like hell because they did not get to know each other before. They did not go through many important questions. And then they realize, oh, we don't fit. We are on a different wavelength, different standards, different goals. This all has to match. And you can't work this out in half an hour, Yes. So times have changed, in former times when the parents knew what it takes, then they, could arrange like this. But now people have no clue, and it just becomes an economical thing that the people look for a well-earning husband for their daughter or for a career woman for their husband so he can get a bigger mortgage and pay it off or what, So, I mean, these are the criteria. And the caste. I mean, people have told me in India, I only realized this year, because I was promoting the book. People told me initiated parents rather arrange a non-devotee for their children who is from the same caste than a devotee who is from a different caste. Yes, that's how important the caste system is, you know. And I wasn't even aware of this, even though I preached for 20 years in India. I never even knew this. You know, I thought Mahaprabhu Prabhupada established that caste, birth, is not everything, you know, but the qualities, you know. Yeah, but it's not established, you know. Yeah, so, and then the last one, family life as an ashram, secrets of success. There is quite a lot of stuff in it, and I hope it will be useful, you know. Yeah, so many different things, starting off from, you know, putting Bhagavatam, holy name, in the center, otherwise it's not an ashram, you know, importance of Brahma Muhurta, our Mangalati, so many things, you know. But then also how to earn your income, different options, and rural communities, and then also a whole chapter on physical intimacy, how to work this all out, and so there's a lot of things in there, you know. So yeah, I simply hope it will be some little contribution to bring stability in our Grihastha ashram. Because also, let's be clear, you know, family life as an ashram, we are not quite there yet in ISKCON. Most people's family life is not really an ashram. And that's why married life gets a bad reputation, that people think, oh, you know, this married life, you can't make advancement. No, if we mold family life into an ashram, it's a great chance to make advancement. All our previous acharyas practically were grihasthas, but their family life was an ashram, you know. But we are not there yet. We are not there yet. Often it's mundane family life, and so how to transform it to make it into an ashram. So if anybody wants to get some books, these 3 are $20 each, these 2 are $15 each. So you can pay by cash or Zelle. Last chance today. Today I'm going to close the whole order system here. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki,
Thank you. Jai.
Gaur Premanandi,
Hare
Hare Krishna. Okay,
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for joining us.